Before I begin this video, I'm not gonna make that much commentary since commentaries aren't good anymore. I don't want to explain that much. It's just, you pretty much know that commentaries nowadays aren't really good. But anyway, the guy that I'm commenting on is Jack Stevenson. If you don't know who this guy is, I'll tell you. You see, he makes videos of top 10 lists and does LPs of them. And one of his favorite video game franchises is Ratchet and Clank, and he did like the movie. So he went to Electric Dragon 505, in other words, Animat's reviews, and he saw his review of Ratchet and Clank, and he decides to defend the movie because he's a fanboy. Now, just so you know, I really don't want to get into this fanboy business at all. What I do want to get involved is that he just defends the movie from some points that Animat made. And I really didn't agree with him that much. I do agree some points, but most of them is just defending the movie because he's a fanboy. Sometimes critics don't agree with you. They don't play video games and they don't watch anime that much. So anyway, let's get this started. And by the way, here's my avatar I'm gonna be using for my commentaries. Yeah, it's Rainbow Dash from Equestria Goers. And no, I'm not picking any photos from the My Little Pony show, it's just gonna be from Equestria Goers. Also, I didn't see the Ratchet and Clank movie, but I do understand why Animat doesn't like this movie that much. And I did play the video games, just not the PS3 games, and I can pretty much understand what the series is. I did my research. So if any of you guys think that I don't understand the series as a whole, well, I do. I just haven't seen the movie, and I did saw Animat's review before Jack Stevenson's commentary on him, and I can understand what Animat's coming from, but most of his points are just really weak. Also, me saying about this fanboy thing that I do not want to get involved, well, you see, fanboys just literally defend movies on franchises that critics don't like, and that's something I cannot enjoy, like Fred the movie, the Pokemon movies, etc. It's just that fanboys, or fangirls, or whatever, just defend movies because they know more than the critics themselves. Well, let me tell you this. I like Pokemon, and I kinda like Fred, but I can't just go against the critics of what they hate, even people in general. Fred, for example, when he made Fred the movie, which is a terrible movie, he just wanted to get more fame and stuff, and that's really nothing special. Seriously, he got more fame when he made an appearance on iCarly. And not only that, they made 2 more movies, which is why people really hate Fred, because he's really annoying. But I kind of like him for his YouTube videos. Not his movies, just his YouTube videos. And I prefer him using YouTube videos. And as for Pokemon, I actually like the movies and some of the video games. But I do understand why critics really didn't like this movie. And I can understand what they're coming from the first movie. And as for Ratchet and Clank, I did enjoy the 4 PlayStation 2 games, Ratchet and Clank 2, Ratchet Deadlock, and I did play some PS3 games, but I really can't afford a PS3 at all. I'm really sorry I didn't get into topic about the commentary. I just want to prove my points on why critics just don't understand what fanboys do, and that's what this commentary is about. So anyway, let's get this started.
I wish critics had better reasons for hating on the Ratchet and Clank movie. I mean, what's the deal? Just because it's based off a video game series doesn't mean it sucks.
You may be right about that, but here's the thing. I'm gonna be using this term a lot. These critics don't play video games that much, and they don't understand the franchise as a whole. I'm gonna be using this term a lot, people. You better get used to this because this statement is true.
Hopefully I can find an internet review to address this.
A few moments later.
Looks like I got some steam to let off. Time to experiment!
I really didn't like that intro. Even though this may be your first commentary, but your first commentary about an intro about voices really doesn't work at all. I did like his review of the movie, but that intro wasn't really good. But anyway, this is your first time doing it, so I'm just gonna take it easy. Moving on.
Now, I'm going to skip ahead a minute, mostly because the first minute is just a bit of history leading up to the eventual review. It isn't bad, there's just nothing to say. So when I'm going to skip a segment of this video, you'll see this.
Okay, I'm not saying that this is a bad idea, but you should need to understand that critics don't play video games that much. I mean, movie critics. What I mean by that is movie critics. And they really don't understand video games like you do. So, if you're just gonna skip ahead the history and why he doesn't play the games, then you don't understand where he's coming from. And some of your points in this commentary were understandable. It still doesn't make the fact that this commentary is really bad, even for your first commentary.
The story.
Nice to know that your category transitions have remained incredibly bland and slow. Just a fading screen with a slightly cropping image and stationary text. Come on, this is 2016, not 2009. Flare up a little bit. Add a clip from a movie or a trailer instead of having a stationary picture. Add some effects to your text. Add a small music clip. Is that too much to ask?
However,
Is it really a big deal that he just uses the same thing over and over again? The story, the animation, and the characters sequence? I mean, why does it bother? And besides, he really can't even find the main clips because the movie was in theaters at that time. And besides, it's okay. It's not a problem at all. Even if it may be old, it's still okay and tolerable. I can handle that. Seriously, why do you have to be concerned by that? If it's because it's really old and it hasn't changed, well then I don't agree with you. And besides, that's just a minor complaint from you.
However, when you take that plot and put it into a movie where the story is one of the most important factors here, then there is no excuse for being lazy with it, and what happened here is just terrible. In fact, only a fraction of the movie actually contains what seems to be a plot. But even at that, it's only during the first act when Ratchet wants to be a galactic ranger, and the movie is so dependent on using cliches that you can immediately know what will happen during the rest of the movie in just the first 5 minutes. Considering how it only gives us about 30, maybe 40 minutes of story and the rest is just nothing but one big space mission, this is the kind of writing where the last time I've experienced it was in Planes. And you know when you're bad at writing when you're at the same level as a cheap spin-off of Cars.
I will admit that the story could have been better, but you don't ever explain why the film's story is non-existent, why it was just one big space mission, and furthermore, why it was comparable to Planes. So why did you make these claims if you're not going to bother backing them up? Also, have you taken into consideration that even though the movie tried to have a story that translated into movie material, that it also wanted to play it safe? Here's what I mean. Previous video game adaptations like Blood Rain and the Super Mario Bros. Movie blew for having a story that was not loyal to their source material, and tried to go all out to create something that in the end didn't work. The way I see it, having a simple story for a first outing in film territory is a smart move. You know, just to see how things go and make future movies even better. But even then, the movie did not just copy the story from the original game. It had a similar premise, sure, but it threw in new twists and turns that went under your scope unrealized. Not to mention, a lot of the events in the story, like Orc's Redemption, weren't in the original game, but rather games that followed suit. It incorporated these to form a story that is good enough for movie material and faithful to the series it's based on. And even if it was a standalone, it'd still be just fine because while it probably is simple in hindsight, they legitimately made it more interesting as the movie went on, with the whole business of the heroes being torn up through words rather than action, and a plot twist with the villains, which I won't spoil. Sure, the elements of the movie are understood more if you've played some games within the series, and I will admit it wasn't a good move to make the movie understood more by fans, but even if you haven't played the series, the attempts to make something into good movie material is very noticeable. But you completely missed it.
But then you
Okay, first of all, the reason why he missed it is because he just doesn't understand what it's trying to tell at all. And even though, yes, what you said about Super Mario Brothers and Bloodline or something isn't really good because they try to make an adaptation that is so bad that it's so unwatchable, that made me wish that they don't exist. And about him missing the point, that's because he has no interest in Ratchet and Clank whatsoever. When you skip his intro, even though you understand that he hasn't played the games, but he just has no interest in them whatsoever. You should really understand that. Sometimes people just don't get interested in the series as a whole. They just review the movie and to see how it came to be. And what I mean came to be is just how the critics look at it. They just focus on what the movie is trying to tell. Animate really just wants to stay focused on the movie. And besides, he didn't play video games before he made this review because he still has no interest. I get it. You have a point that he completely missed it. But he just has no interest in it whatsoever. He just wants to go straight to theaters and watch the movie to see how it came out to be. And while I admit that I really want to see the movie and want to like it, but it's just the critics' opinions. Fanboys and critics aren't the same thing, you know.
Then you also have the humor, which you can really tell that it's trying to give the film a really meta and snarky tone. But it forgets to do one thing: be funny. And because of that, it gives a bit of an annoying tone throughout the film. It's like a guy who subtly laughs at his own bad jokes. It's not enough to scream out, "Shut up!" but it gives you a good reason why not to like him.
Ignoring the whole humor is subjective argument, you again forgot to elaborate. All you say is that the humor's meta and snarky, which doesn't give the viewer a good idea of what you mean. Furthermore, you don't even show any jokes you found unfunny. You need something to prove your point. You can't just say that while playing trailer footage that contributes nothing to your argument. You need to show a joke you found unfunny or tell us one of them, not just expect us to take your word for it without any evidence. Your audience is not a bunch of sheep.
Okay, I can understand that he needs to elaborate, but you're missing one thing. Animat makes some really good points on why the humor doesn't work. Why? Well, first of all, he can't find any clips at all on why the humor is good or bad. Secondly, Animat is a really smart critic. He started this in 2009 all the way to right now. And he can understand what the movie is about and why it's not funny. He stays focused on what the movie is. And the reason why he didn't elaborate is because people can understand what he's talking about. They know what he's saying to understand that the humor doesn't work. Well, I know I haven't seen the movie and I'm not a fan of Ratchet and Clank humor, but I just don't agree what you're trying to understand what he's trying to say. Just to let you know, critics just don't like video game humor. That's just what they're saying. They don't like video game humor. And they don't have to play the game to understand it.